Avoid this question when ending a session. As we end sessions, and often when we're in training, it's coming to the last few minutes, we are often looking to wind down the session and land it gently. And it's not uncommon for students to use a phrase such as, "Is there anything else you'd like to add?" And as nice as this phrase is and seemingly helpful, but it can be one best avoided. Now, why do I say that? Why should we let the client not share something more as we're closing the session so they get the most value, if you like, from it? The thing to consider is, what is the message we're giving the client at that particular point? It's an invitation to bring something brand new to the session that they may have not spoken about ever before. And it's possible, for lots of reasons, why it may be very difficult to contain this new information in the last minute and a half of a session. Imagine you're the client, and what happens is you're sharing some new information at the end, and your therapist has to begin to kind of wind down and finish on time for boundaries, for the next client, whatever it may be. How does that leave you feeling as a client when you've brought something new, potentially very vulnerable and sensitive, and you're not able to pursue it or discuss it? It's more than likely, at least I offer, that you're going to feel dismissed and maybe even rejected in what you're feeling. You may feel you actually have been left something after a minute and a half of explaining this extra bit of information, and it's just left between you and the therapist, and there's no work that can be done on that because the session's come to a close. So it leaves the client feeling vulnerable and not held. So it's ideal to avoid asking the question, "Is there anything else you'd like to add?" because it could really open up a whole new bit of information, a whole new sharing that the client even may not have thought about sharing, but brings it to the very end, and it's incredibly difficult then to close a session as a therapist. It may leave the client feeling vulnerable and exposed and not held, and that's unsafe, and in that sense it's unethical. The safest way to end the session, particularly when we have a few minutes left, is to summarize the key points. The experiences that you heard, reflect those back to the client, so we're really ending it and they can feel heard and held as we close the session. But if for whatever reason you do ask that question a couple of minutes before the end, and you ask them, "Is there anything else you'd like to bring?" and then they share or unload some new material, one suggestion to handle that when it happens is to ask, "Can I hold that for you so we can return to it the next session?" Here we're being ethical by maintaining the boundary. We're also still making sure the client has autonomy and agency because they decide how that information is held, who holds it, and it's returned to. A counter argument to that is to say that you as a therapist now have to hold that information for a whole week. So what are you going to do with it? A further way of handling the situation then would be to say, "Thank you for bringing that. Do you mind if we return to that at the beginning of the next session?" So there's a couple of ways of handling a situation when you have said what else you'd like to bring, but best it's avoided because it mainly leaves a client feeling unsafe, or it leaves them going out of the session feeling unsafe and vulnerable and potentially unheard. So I hope you found that beneficial. If you have, please drop in the comments and let me know. And importantly, is there anything I can help with on your counselling skills journey, the training, any questions that come up for you? Please let me know about those and I'll answer every single one of you.